Today you will learn how to read a coordinate plane and how to plot points on a coordinate plane. The coordinate plane is a grid system. Every coordinate plane is set up the same. It has an x-axis, which is a horizontal line, and it has a y-axis, which is always the vertical line. Every coordinate plane also has an origin, and the origin is the point at which the two lines cross. On every x-axis, you have points that look like a number line, and to the right of the origin, the numbers are positive. So you'll see positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To the left, you'll see negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The numbers go on forever and ever, but for the purposes of this coordinate plane, we're only going up to the number 6. On the y-axis, numbers that are above the origin are positive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Numbers below the origin are negative. Negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The coordinate plane is separated into 4 quadrants. Meaning there are 4 sections. So you have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Those are always represented with large Roman numerals. The reason the coordinate plane exists is so that you can plot things called ordered pairs. Every ordered pair will always appear the same. There will be a set of parentheses with a comma separating 2 numbers. The first number is always going to be the x number. The second number is always going to be the y number. If it helps you, think of the fact that x comes before y in the alphabet. So how do you go ahead and plot ordered pairs on a coordinate plane? So you have your x number, which we'll represent with blue, and you have your y number, which we'll represent with pink. Let's say I have an ordered pair at 3, 5. That means that my ordered pair gets plotted, x is 3 and y is 5. So what I have to do is I have to plot my point where those 2 lines intersect. Okay. Typically, a point will have a letter name. So for instance, let's say my point is called Q. Then on your coordinate plane, you would label it with the letter of the point that you're labeling. Let's say I had a second point, point R, at 6, 2. That means that it's going to fall at 6 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. So I plot my point where those 2 lines intersect, and I would label it point R. I can also label points if they're negative. So if my point S is located at -4, -3, I look for -4 on the x-axis and -3 on the y-axis, and I would just label the point where the 2 intersect, and I would label it with point S. What happens if I have a 0 in my ordered pair? So let's look at point T, which we have as 0, -3. I know where -3 is on the y-axis. It's right here. Because this is where 1 is on the x-axis, or -1, and this is where 1 is, 0 falls on the origin. So 0, -3, or point T, would actually fall right on the y-axis. So so it would sit on that main axis line. The opposite is true if I have a point where 0 is my y-coordinate. So let's take a look at point U. If I have a point at 5, 0, so 5 is my x-coordinate and 0 is my y-coordinate, well, here's where 1 and -1 are for y, so 0 falls on my origin. So I would put point U on the x-axis. Sometimes you will be given a point on the coordinate plane and be asked to write what the coordinates are. So let's say I had a point on my coordinate plane, and I'm going to call it point M. What you need to do is you need to look at where it falls on the x-axis and the y-axis. So if I look on the x-axis, it falls on the 3. If I look on the y-axis, it falls on the -2. So for point M, I would say its coordinates are 3, -2. Remember, your coordinates are always going to go in a parentheses and will always be separated by a comma. Sometimes you will see coordinate planes used to draw figures or pictures. So for example, if I were to put 3 points here, let's call these points A, B, and C, I could connect these together to make a triangle. So I have a polygon or a figure on my coordinate plane. Sometimes the pictures can be very simple, sometimes they can be elaborate. Sometimes I can use the coordinate plane to draw reflections or rotations or transformations of my figures. So remember when we learned about slides, flips, and turns? I could take this triangle and flip it over my x-axis. And if I do that, it would look something like this. Now I have a flip of my green triangle into my purple triangle. I could also flip it over my x-axis. And it will look something like this. Pretty cool, huh?